Is this thing on? It's been a while. Hello, and welcome back to the Moviemouth Film and TV Podcast. We've been away, imprisoned at the bottom of a dark well, slowly recovering and building our film knowledge to the point of paralysis. But here we are, emerging once again into the light of the movie projector to strike fear into the hearts of other podcasts. On this very episode, we hang out in the shadows with RBATS himself. Yes, Robert Pattinson is Batman in Matt Reeve's understated take on the comic book movie, The Batman, before taking a work sabbatical by, well, making ourselves forget being at work in Apple TV's Ben Stiller directed curio, Severance. And in this week's Video Store Corner classic film discussion section, we take a look back at the movie that started it all as far as blockbuster comic book movies go. Holy campers Christmas, Batman. It's Batman. And that was brought to you by Tim Burton's 1989 classic starring Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. On top of it all, we'll be discussing the latest film news, trailer reactions, and throwing in as much movie madness as you've come to expect from the Moviemouth team. I'm Vengeance. I mean Miles, and as ever, I'm joined by a man who once said, "That's the problem. You hung up your mic and your headphones, but you never went to find a life. But you're not living. You're just waiting for the things to go bad again. Do you remember when you left the podcast? Before all this, before Moviemouth, you were gone for 7 years. 7 years I waited, hoping that you wouldn't come back. Every year I took a holiday. I went to Florence. There's this cafe on the banks of the Arno. Every fine evening, I'd sit there and order a Fernet Branca. I had this fantasy that I would look across the table and I'd see you there with a wife, maybe a couple of kids. You wouldn't say anything to me, nor me to you, but we both know that you'd made it, that you were happy. I never wanted you to come back to Moviemouth. I always knew there was nothing here for you except pain and tragedy. And I wanted something more for you than that. I still do." It's Phil. Hi, Phil.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
It's good.
Oh, that was fun.
2 months I've been working on that.
Yeah, clearly. It's a lovely performance.
Yeah, I know. How have you been?
Yeah, good. It's been a long time, isn't it? I'm just trying to think what's happened. Lots of things have happened.
Well, do you want to tell the listeners why we've had our little sabbatical here?
Well, it was the New Year and Christmas time. That's always a busy time, isn't it?
Well, we did have 2 podcasts during that time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But then I got COVID.
Yes.
Then you got COVID.
You gave it to me, didn't you? You gave it to me through the internet.
Through the internet, yeah. I sent it to you in a little virus package via email.
It was.
I didn't do that.
It was a time, wasn't it? It was a time having a little COVID. But don't worry, listeners. Yeah. We are safe and well, and so are our significant others.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a bit of a crappy time. Also, not many movies out, were there? Really?
No, not really. No. We felt a bit quiet, didn't it? And yeah, we needed a break. And now, now we've all come back to it. COVID's over, near enough. And World War III started. So that's good.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Here in your hour of need. Not that we, of course, condone World War III.
No.
Besides all that, have you kept up with your New Year's resolution that you told both Sean and myself on the 2021 podcast of the year? Can you tell listeners what that was?
Well, the resolution was that I would finally watch not only Avengers Infinity War, but also Avengers Endgame.
Hell of a resolution. And one that I've been trying to get you to make since, I think, the very first episode. Is that right? Space Force Season 1 review episode.
Yeah. Like 34 odd episodes ago.
And tell the listeners, did you keep up your end of the bargain?
I'll tell you what. I bloody did it, didn't I?
Oh, my goodness me.
Yeah,
As if summoned by a Doctor Strange portal, Phil arrives, having
now
seen...
I know what you're on about. Yeah, because I think I said before, very oddly, I had managed not to have the end of, or anything really, about
Spoiled.
Endgame spoiled. Yeah. Which is, I think, quite remarkable considering how long ago it was out. And do you know what's really weird? After
It's either remarkable or ignorant, so I'm not sure either.
And I don't know if it is just a thing of me sort of just choosing to ignore it, but like what is really weird is that now that I've seen it, I've seen like the big spoilers for it. Like quite often. Like it would have been spoiled for me if I hadn't watched it then. So I think it was a sign.
I think it was too. I'm glad. I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you did. And obviously, most of our listeners, I'm sure, have seen the Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame movies. But they're just two movies that I absolutely loved, and I wanted Phil to see them just because he kind of ran out of steam a little bit, didn't you, with the MCU? I think around Age of Ultron.
And I went to see Age of Ultron, and I saw the first Avengers and stuff, and I just I think I've mentioned it before quite a lot. I just get a bit overwhelmed by the bucket loads of Marvel that gets thrown at you on a daily basis, and I don't know. I just sort of I've got nothing against them. Like they were both brilliant. Like I loved them. And I liked the other ones as well. It wasn't like I didn't want to watch them. It was just that I sort of left it long enough that it wasn't an issue anymore, and then I just sort of kept forgetting about it, or not. It wasn't high on my priority list. But I'm really glad
that they weren't spoiled for you. I mean, that was the most important thing. I just didn't want them to be spoiled for you. But did you have any holy shit moments in those movies? I mean, they're pretty.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't forget,
right?
I watched them at home. I'm sure like watching them in a cinema would have been a lot better. But I watched them loud and at home on a big TV. So to get as much of a cinema experience as I could, and it was really good. There were some such like big scenes in them. Just Endgame in particular just led to a lot of unexpected things. I mean, I don't know. Are we going to talk about spoilers?
Well, we can talk lightly about them. I just say just kind of highlight some of the things. I mean, for me, Infinity War was brilliant. I loved seeing it, and the way it focuses on the villain. I thought the amazing thing about Endgame is how it shifted back to this 5 years later scenario. And I was in the theater actually with friend of the podcast, Jason Kim, one of our Bond reporters, Field Agent Kim, I should say.
Field Agent Kim, yeah.
We sat in the theater on opening day for Endgame, and when that 5 years later comes up, after that kind of that opening epilogue where you see what happens to Thanos, I just remember turning to Jason and just going, holy shit, this is awesome. Like you've seen these movies a dozen times, these kind of movies a dozen times, but it just, the way it reinvented the kind of, it just took it into a completely different direction that you just did not expect for me.
Yeah, right. Definitely. And just the scale of it, just, as a person that appreciates like good special effects and everything, just the whole scale of it, like the huge battle scenes at the end, just looked awesome. Just such a good looking film as well. And just, right amount of action, right amount of comedy, right amount of emotion. Really good. Really hit
little time travel
well.
in there as well. Little time travel in there, which I thought you'd appreciate.
Just a bit of everything.
I know.
So it lived up, I think, to its hype. I think that's the other thing. Maybe I was a bit worried that I was going to watch it and I'd be like, oh, well, but I wasn't. I was very impressed. It was awesome.
Portals.
Yeah, it's just everything. Yeah.
Did you weep at a certain moment at the demise of a certain character?
I might not have wept, but I had a big old bloody lump in my throat. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
I might have had a lip quiver going on.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Really good, really good.
Good.
So
I'm glad.
If like me, you put off watching it, just go and watch it because it's good. It's really good.
I bloody told you, didn't I? I know what I'm talking about from time to time. That's good. Well, what else have you been watching other than all of the Marvel movies?
Well, I haven't really got through many films, I suppose, but I've started watching. I've sort of started a lot of different things, and I'm only a couple of episodes into each one, I guess. But so I've started series 3 of Snowpiercer on Netflix.
Yep.
Because I'm keeping going with that. I've enjoyed. It's nothing groundbreakingly brilliant, but I've enjoyed the first 2 series of that. I think I mentioned.
I can't believe
before.
that's on season 3 already. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But so I'm a couple of episodes into that. I've started to watch part 3 of Disenchantment, the animated series on Netflix as well.
That's the Matt Groening one, right?
Matt Groening, the medieval sort of, and again, it's as entertaining as it was before. Some really good, funny moments in that. But I need to carry that on. Actually, again, I've only done a couple of episodes of that. And I did watch one film actually that my wife recommended to me because she's been watching loads of sort of foreign language stuff, mostly like European French stuff because she's learning French, and she's been watching exclusively French dramas. But then she watched a Belgian one which was based on there was a series out, but then there was a film that was like a prequel film made about it, and I think I spoke to you about it at the time. But it was called Ferry, which is a Netflix film as well, and it's just a sort of mob.
Was it very good?
It was very good. Yeah, that joke. And but yeah, really good. It's well worth a watch. It's just a sort of relatively low budget, small cast mob film.
Here's a question for you: Where are you renting or watching your foreign movies over there in the UK? Where do you find them?
Most of that is on Netflix. They've got a really big library, and it's funny because she was Carly. This was looking through like the library. She's basically done every French film and TV series that's possible to watch on Netflix. And then I said, well, let's look at Prime and stuff as well, and went on to Prime, but there's nowhere near the amount on Amazon Prime.
Sell them
Prime
out.
Video. I
tell you, it's a really good place. I don't know if this app's available. It might be worth looking up. But there's an app here, another streaming app, unfortunately, but it's called Mubi, MUBI,
right?
And it shows foreign and independent cinema, and it has like a film of the day every day on the app. It releases like a new film, and they're all like Jean-Luc Godard and things like that. These kind of movies, but lots of classic movies, but also lots of like unknown movies that maybe didn't hit the mark.
Okay.
And there's a lot of good stuff on there, but it's interesting to know that Netflix is your kind of repository, but Prime isn't so much as well. That's
because we just had as a test that it's not like I tried other languages, but I was looking for French language stuff to see if there's anything else she'd want to watch, because she was just exhausting it all on Netflix, and there's just not as much at all. I think, or either that or the search function on it is not as good. I'll tell you the one other thing she did get me to watch, and I've watched again. It's the first one of a series that came out last year, but it's called The Dealer, and it's French language. And I think there's about 10 episodes, but they're really short. Like the first episode's like 9 minutes long, and each one's about either 10, 15 minutes. I think they're all sort of sub 20 minutes. But I think it's probably for the best because it's so tense. Like the first one's about like these guys. It's like all filmed from like GoPro type stuff for the first episode. I don't know if they're all like that or not. But yeah, it's from the point of view of a cameraman, and they're going to this sort of like hood in France. I don't know what part of France it is, but they're going there to like film they've been told to go there by a record label to film a music video for this gangster guy that's just come out of prison. And it's so tense. They arrive and like they're just ultra violent towards them. And then there's like a shoot. It's just crazy. It's like the first episode is the most tense 10 minutes of.
Where did you find The Dealer?
That's on Netflix. That's a Netflix one.
Okay.
It's a Netflix original, that one. It's a Netflix series. But yeah, that's a good little one to watch. If you've got like, if you want something quick to watch that's really good, stick that on, because short episodes like that, you can just have it while you're having a morning coffee.
Look at you expanding the minds of the Moviemouth podcast listener. You're usually giving us around this time a Nicolas Cage update, aren't you? This is
There's still time.
There's time. The Nicolas Cage klaxon might just go off.
What about you? What have you been? What have your eyes been oogling?
Well, as I said at the top of the pod, it's been quiet at the start of the year for new film releases, especially cinematically. We did get away to when I was away in Maryland and Puerto Rico, and just kind of getting away from the freezing New York temperature over January and February. But I managed to get back to the cinema, and the first movie that I saw in the cinema was Jackass Forever, which is the new, obviously Jackass continuation, the fourth movie. With Steve-O and Johnny Knoxville and co. It was okay. It was funny. We enjoyed it. It was a good kind of movie to go see and reset and not think about the grand picture that's happening in the world at the moment. Not as good as the old stuff, but they're getting old. It's like there's a scene in that with Preston Lacey, the kind of rotund guy. The big guy, where he shits his pants. And kind of just is a scene where he just kind of turns around to the camera and he's like, I'm 51 years old and shitting my pants on camera. And it's kind of crazy to think they're in their 50s, 50s, so they've got a new cast. They've got some new guys in there. They're kind of trying to mix it up a little bit. It was fun. It was, whenever it comes out, it'll be worth a watch, and on a Friday night, Saturday night, which should be good. Just this last week, I went to see a movie, which interestingly is actually on Netflix. You can watch this right now. It's an Italian movie. Moving on from your foreign cinema trend, Phil, which is The Hand of God, which is directed by probably my favorite Italian filmmaker, Paolo Sorrentino. Paolo Sorrentino made Youth with Michael Caine. He made The Great Beauty, won the Oscar for The Great Beauty. And more recently, he directed the Berlusconi movie Loro, parts 1 and 2, which was awesome as well. This is actually based on his own life. It's about him. He's changed his name, changed some of the characters' names, but about him growing up in 1980s Naples, and about him basically finding his passion to become a filmmaker. So very Moviemouth podcast friendly in terms of content. It's a little, should we say, Italian movie, sexually explicit, and in some cases a little unusual. But it's just directed with just absolute masterclass, brilliant cinematography. Great kind of production value around Naples and how they made it feel, like it was of its time. An amazing cast and very, very funny. The script was really funny. Paolo Sorrentino, not always so funny, maybe a little bit dry, and in this case, he was a little bit more broader in the comedy scale, which I really, really loved. He also directed, by the way, The New Pope, The Young Pope. If you saw any of those with Jude Law. Yeah, so fans of that would love that. I actually also saw a Q&A. He was at the screening that I went to, and kind of talking about the movie itself, and where he got the idea from, and how he works with actors and all that kind of thing. And I was going to post a transcript on our Instagram for those of you that are interested in hearing what he had to say about movie making. But that was really cool. So check that out on Netflix. You can watch that at home right now. It's called The Hand of God, and definitely worth a watch. On the TV front, I watched a lot of TV with all the traveling and so on, and the COVID and all that good stuff. Have you watched much on Apple TV? Do you have Apple TV at all?
I do not have Apple TV. No,
you don't. Okay,
no, I have access to it, but I don't have
it's weird. A lot of people have access to it. A lot of people have it because when you buy an iPhone, they give you like a free subscription or whatever. But a lot of people I talk to don't. It doesn't seem to be as urgent as a lot of the other platforms like the Netflix.
No, I mean, I know they have their own originals. They've sort of started pushing their own original films and stuff now, haven't they? Like the what was the most recent one I sort of wanted to watch was the Tom Hanks one.
Yeah, I mean it's all original, really. It's all original content that they're making. It's not like a Netflix or an Amazon where they actually have bought other shows to put on there and other platforms. You have access to things like Amazon and Stars and all this kind of stuff through there, but it's only its own content.
Right.
So I've watched a ton of that just because I exhausted all the other platforms. I did get around to watching Servant, which is the M. Night Shyamalan series, which is deeply disturbing, about a kind of young husband and wife whose child passes away in childbirth and is replaced by a rubber doll. When
Bloody hell.
a kind of live-in babysitter comes to stay with them to take care of this rubber doll, and it's really, really quite disturbing, but fairly gripping. I also did manage to get around to watching The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, which season 1 of which was absolutely awesome. It's this kind of post Me Too movement film about sexual harassment in the workplace and how it's viewed from different standpoints. Steve Carell starring in that as well.
Yeah.
Really, really liked season 1 of that. Season 2, I think, fell a little flat, perhaps in the wake of COVID. Didn't really seem to hit the high notes of the first season. And something else, which we're going to be reviewing later in the show. I'm going to skip over some of the things that I did watch. I did watch the entirety of Reacher on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah,
which is the Alan Ritchson starring show around the first book, The Killing Floor. Have you read any of the Lee Child Reacher books?
I have not. No.
I feel like you'd really like them.
Yeah, I think
you'd
I would.
like them.
Yeah.
You enjoyed The Martian. Did you read The Martian?
I did read The Martian. Yeah.
Kind of like The Martian, except not on Mars, where it's like there's this guy on Earth who needs to kind of basically life hack his way out of every situation, usually resulting in him ripping someone's eyeball out or someone's arm off or something. But you would have seen the Tom Cruise movies. This follows the same vein, but obviously its star isn't 5'8". He is actually 6'5", just like Reacher himself. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Still nothing crucial in Amazon TV, I'm finding, though. Nothing really, nothing that urgent to watch. But the two shows, and I am going to wrap this up, but the two shows that I've watched that I absolutely loved so far this year, no surprises to our Instagram followers, Peacemaker on HBO Max, which is not out in the UK yet,
lucky
Phils, so go fuck yourself. But it's here in the States. I'm sure it's going to come out in the UK at some point. But this is James Gunn, who returns following his successful take on the Suicide Squad. This show is written by him and mostly directed by him. And of course, it stars John Cena reprising his role as Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad, the movie that came out last year. A character that, to be honest, was okay in the movie, but I was a bit whatever about seeing a show about.
Yeah.
But this is really fucking good. I absolutely loved Peacemaker. It's very un-PC, gory. It's got that kind of over-the-top, self-aware humor. It's got a rock and roll soundtrack. It's definitely not a cool show. There's nothing cool about it, but it doesn't give a fuck. It's really, really good. I think you're going to love it. I know you're going to love it.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
You've got to see it. You got to see it. So we'll keep you updated, UK listeners, when that comes out in the UK. But obviously, US listeners, you can stream that right now on HBO Max. Season 2, by the way, has just been confirmed. Also with James Gunn coming back to direct all episodes, I believe.
Oh.
So check that out. And the other one, I have to thank our often or part-time co-host Sean Chrysanthou, special guest on the 2021 look back episode on our last episode, who mentioned watching Peter Flanagan's follow-up to the Haunting of Hill House Bly Manor show on Netflix, which is Midnight Mass. Sean, based on your recommendation, man, I got to thank you, because it's an absolute masterpiece, isn't it? Hamish Linklater comes in as a standout performer. He's a priest, basically, who arrives on a small American island to cover for the outgoing elderly priest who previously united the community. This sounds really dry when I say it, but it talks on so many different levels. It's a work of pure genius. Somehow it takes a really tired formula, which we've all seen, and I won't detail here, as Sean didn't, rightly so, on our previous podcast, for any spoilers. But when you see it, it will all become clear as to what genre this falls into. But Peter Flanagan really makes this so fresh. It's madness, beautiful, visceral, gory, disturbing. Definitely kept me awake at night. And and I absolutely loved it. So if you've got Netflix and you'd like things a little creepy, a little scary, then I absolutely recommend Midnight Mass. Please go and watch that.
Cool.
I'm sure I've watched like 4,000 other things, but we're going to move on.
We had a long time to catch up with.
Yes, we have. I guess probably the only place to start in the news is with some sad news, right, Phil?
Indeed, yeah. And that is the news that came in about the passing of Ivan Reitman, which was in mid-February, on Valentine's Day, I think it was. So yeah, that's real sad, because especially we'd done our Ghostbusters special, and we'd really, I think, all enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I'd watched a lot more. I'd sort of been in Ghostbusters mode, so I'd watched a lot of I've watched a lot of sort of documentary stuff with him in it. He just seemed like a really nice guy, and clearly knew what he was doing. Made some absolutely fantastic films. So yeah, it was sad to see that he'd passed away at the age of 75, I think he was. Yeah, but I'm hoping, Jason can continue his legacy and sort of do his dad proud, which I'm sure he did with, it's probably, it's just great that I guess that he got to see Jason do something as big as Ghostbusters Afterlife as well. So yeah, sad news about Ivan Reitman.
Yeah, really sad. And it's strange how, and also fortunate how he's been so prominent in recent years, the last couple of years in particular, because of him collaborating with his son Jason on the Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel.
Yeah,
and the fact that he was, kind of front and foremost a lot of the press and the Q&As they would do together, and he was on set every day, as far as I'm aware. He was very heavily involved as part of that movie. So it was a real shock when it happened. Straight after the release of that film. But obviously a huge influence on you and I when it comes to movie making. From my perspective, probably told this story a dozen times, but Ghostbusters that he obviously directed was the first video VHS that I had when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, that my parents had laying around, and my parents wrongly assuming it was a kids movie, and I guess that was to blame for my love of movies and comedy and my sheer terror of fucking ghosts. So thanks for that, Ivan. But I think on top of it all, how interesting it is that no spoilers, but the end of Ghostbusters Afterlife now is even more apt when it comes to the truth around missing a father. So sad, but as you say, also a really nice bookend to his life and his career. And like you said, let's hope Jason continues on and continues to make him proud.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
What else you got for us?
Yeah, so also in the news, something I want your opinion on, right? To see if you think it's, I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically, movie theatre chain AMC, which we don't have over here in the UK. Well, I don't think so anyway.
Well, they do own their own Odeon.
Oh, well, there you are then. So we do in a way, but I don't think they're doing what I'm about to talk about over here. Well, not that I've heard of. But it's the story that AMC, the movie theatre chain, is charging more on a ticket price for people to see the Batman than they are for other films that are out at the moment. And now this is supposedly in a bid to recoup some of the money that obviously they've lost during the pandemic and not being able to open. But I don't think that's right. I don't think you should. Personally, I can see that they need to recoup some cash, but is it right to pick one film as a premium film over others and know that more people are going to want to see it, so then charge more to go and see that?
I don't think it is.
No.
I mean, it's obviously it's down to the movie chain themselves. I'm actually just, funny enough, I'm just looking at my app to compare prices. Now, one thing I would say about AMC here in the US, which is, as you say, is the most prominent, theatre chain that's over here, is that they do offer an AMC pass, which is called the AMC Stubs A-List, which basically enables you to watch 3 films a week for around $20, something like that. Now, movies here in the US, I'd say that usually ticket prices in New York, so obviously it's probably more expensive here, usually around $16, $17, something like that.
Okay.
When I booked my Batman tickets, I just booked them. I booked them for free, but on the ticket itself, it showed the price, which I didn't actually look at, but my girlfriend was like, "Holy shit, this was expensive! If we hadn't have got our A-list ticket price, $28."
Whoa. That's a big difference. I mean, in the news article, it says they're classing it as variable pricing for tickets. And they've said that it will be a slightly higher price. But that is not a slightly higher price. That's a big difference.
It is. It is for sure.
Yeah.
I mean...
I really don't think I agree with that. I don't think you should be charging people more because that the demand's going to be higher for that film. I think that's not on, really.
No, it doesn't. I think one thing that they have done well over the years with variable pricing is they basically offer discounts on midday shows or early day shows. So when you go into the app, for example, you go to their website, you can see where earlier showings have 30% off the ticket price. So
Okay.
there is also the flip side incentive to that. But of course, if they're charging a premium for people to watch certain films, then that 30% off doesn't really mean very much. But it does apply in most cases. So they do try incentives to try and get people to go and watch films. But I definitely find it sad. I also find it difficult with AMC to be able to find the right kind of indie content or lower budget content in most screens. It is quite heavily drawn towards the big budget and the big studio films. So as you know, a lot of the main chains are in Europe and the UK as well, I know. But I was really excited to see Studio 666, the new Foo Fighters kind of horror comedy. But it wasn't showing in my local theater this week. It was showing last week, but then it kind of just disappeared.
I think it's out for a very limited time, that film.
Yeah. But even so, kind of annoying, kind of a shame.
Yeah, give people a chance to watch it.
Definitely. I don't know whether higher ticket prices are going to incentivize people to go back and watch and go to the cinema when they know full well, the likes of Warner Brothers have been releasing all of their movies on HBO Max the same day as theatrical releases. So I guess they're trying to combat that. But no, I mean, sorry, I've kind of run away with your news item, but it is interesting.
No, it's fine. It was more, I wanted to see your, what you thought about that, really. But yeah.
I would say that if you're a cinema goer here in the US and you want to get bang for your buck, and the chances are this year we're going to be able to get back into the cinema more, with higher rates of vaccination against COVID, and more lenient rules around social distancing, that it's probably worth looking at some of these AMC Stubs movie passes and things like that a lot of the big chains are offering. But also not to forget, how important it is to support your local, smaller, independent movie theater. We can think of probably dozens, in the UK and dozens here in the US that we absolutely love. So make sure you are supporting them. Don't sit at home. Go out, get up off your couch, go watch a movie and pay for it. And if you can pay cheaper and go to a independent cinema, then go do that, please.
Please. Do you want my other bit of news?
Yeah, go on then.
So this is the news that a Harry Houdini movie is in development at Paramount Studios.
Houdini!
Yeah, I knew we were going to do that. Such nerds, Miles.
I know.
Nerds.
Star Wars nerds.
And I love it.
Of course, that was a Jawa from the Star Wars franchise. Just for those people out there that don't get the in-joke.
Yeah. So yes, the a film about the legendary escape artist and illusionist Harry Houdini is in development at Paramount, courtesy of Transformers producers Lorenzo Di Bonaventura and Mark Varadian. So that's interesting. I think it could make a really interesting sort of biopic film, because he was quite a character, wasn't he?
He was quite a character. Who would you have play him?
I mean,
have they released any casting for this?
No, they haven't. But there's a lot of. He's been played in various, small like TV documentary stuff by people like Adrian Brody. I think played him for a bit, which I thought was probably a really good fit. And yeah, I just think that I don't know. It's hard to know who would work. I think he was recently played by Guy Pearce as well in a small thing. But yeah, it's
also very good casting. Maybe a Cumberbatch. Could be Cumberbatch,
he would work. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? But I think apparently there's been like something on the cards for quite a while, starring Ben Affleck at Disney. With regards to Harry Houdini, but there's been that's been sort of static for quite a long time. So Paramount have obviously thought, well, we'll try and get something out, something out first. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's quite good. I think that could be a really interesting biopic.
Definitely,
yeah. So I thought
I wonder who they would get to direct. It does sound, it does sound kind of Christopher Nolan-esque.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? It could be. I mean, he's obviously currently working on Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
around the movie of the birth of the atomic bomb. But it does sound, obviously, I guess following on from The Prestige. And what the first part?
Oh God,
was called, don't you? The first part that's called The Pledge. The third part. That's called The Turn.
Oh, God.
The third part, that's called The Prestige, yeah. Don't go where I can't follow, Mr. Bruce. No, he never said that, did he?
He never said that.
Was he in Lord of the Rings as Samwise Gamgee?
I would have paid to have seen that.
Don't go where I can't follow, Mr. Frodo's potatoes. You're only supposed to blow the bloody ring up.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that they've said it'll be set obviously in the earlier 20th century and have a Sherlock Holmes tone.
Oh God, Cumbersnatch then.
Well, possibly. And they've said that given that it's coming from the producer of the Transformers films, this will likely be closer in tone to the Robert Downey Jr. iteration of Sherlock Holmes than the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle original.
But Harry Houdini was a real man, whereas Sherlock Holmes was not. So what they're trying to do, maybe make some kind of swashbuckling Harry Houdini, solving crimes type thing, like they did with didn't they do like a Sigmund Freud murder mystery book I read years ago? I can't remember what the hell it was called. But maybe something like that. Harry Houdini, kind of involved in some kind of crime thriller-ish type, Dan Brown style mystery, national treasure type thing.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage.
Get Nicolas Cage as Houdini.
The breeze!
Watch me escape the breeze. Yeah. So
put him in a bee helmet and let's watch him as Harry Houdini.
A bee helmet. Yeah, that's my news.
Well, what if I said this, Phil? Beetlejuice.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Say it 3 times. And word is that Brad Pitt's production company, Plan B, is now aboard a production of a Beetlejuice sequel starring Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder returning
Beetlejuice
as the ghost with the most, and Lydia Dietz, respectively. So no word yet on whether Tim Burton, who directed the original, will be returning to direct this one. No doubt he's probably a little bored of hearing about whether there'll be another Beetlejuice sequel, but I don't know. I feel like Beetlejuice, you can't really age Beetlejuice. He's already dead. So, and, Michael Keaton's kind of going through a bit of a Keatonescence right now. He's coming back as Bruce Wayne in the Flash movie. So we're going to be seeing him soon. And obviously, due to our Moviemouth Video Store Corner watch this week, I'm kind of down for a little more Keaton in my life. I don't know about you.
For that. I love Michael Keaton. I think he's brilliant.
Me too.
Yeah.
Have you watched Beetlejuice recently?
Ish.
Right.
In the last 2 years, I'd say. I think I've watched it. Yeah. I love Beetlejuice. Freaked me the hell out when I was little.
It is an incredible movie. It's kind of weird.
It's brilliant. It's so odd, but I love it.
Yeah.
I just love. Yeah, I was so freaked out about it. Mainly, I remember being the whole thing. As soon as you say Beetlejuice to me, do you know what scene comes to my head?
Shrunken head. Head.
No, weirdly not. It's when they're going through the corridors. Alec Baldwin and what's her name?
Gina Davis.
Help me. Yeah, Gina Davis. And like he gets his face stretched out and he's like a crocodile.
Yes. Oh,
It's that. And she gets, I can't remember what happens to her, but when they're walking around, he's got like the checked black and white shirt on, hasn't he? Like,
yes.
I see this is so vividly coming back to me, just like, and they meet that like dead American football team in like the corridor.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what I think is great. I love that film.
It's such a weird scene. He looks like one of the spies from the old video game Spies versus Spy versus Spy. You know what I mean? That long Alec Baldwin face. I guess it's unlikely that Baldwin's going to, return to his role in this with the, obviously recent sad news. But we shall see. But we'll keep you updated on this one. Love a bit of Beetlejuice. And as my girlfriend often tells me now that I have long COVID pandemic hair, every morning I wake up, I look like Beetlejuice. So kind of down for a little more Beetlejuice in my life.
Why not?
Anything to back me up.
You need to dye your hair green a bit. We'll get a green moss.
Do you know what?
On your forehead.
I did that. I did the Marv costume for Halloween last year. I think it's got to be Beetlejuice this year.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
So we'll wait and see. All right. Well, look, I've got some double Steven Spielberg news for you, kind of.
Double Spielbergo?
Double L Spielbergo.
Brilliant.
The first is that Steven Spielberg has just optioned a movie to direct starring the Frank Bullitt character, which those of you who will remember is, of course, the character that Steve McQueen played in the Bullitt movie back in the 60s, which was an awesome movie. The original movie found Bullitt overseeing the protection of a mob witness. He was kind of he had these kind of political aspirations, and then the kind of witness gets targeted by hitmen, and so it probably more of the same, like a kind of thriller in line with the typical Spielberg type movie. But if you can imagine it set back in that period of time, don't think you've seen West Side Story yet, Phil? Is that right?
No, I haven't.
But for what he does with that period, or any kind of period, could be amazing. Especially with the Janusz Kaminski coming back and doing his usual thing on cinematography duties. Could look really cool seeing Bullitt driving around. So we'll see who he gets for that. But that could be interesting. That one's sat with Warner Brothers right now, and we'll follow up his next movie, The Fabelmans, which is his autobiographical movie about his own upbringing, kind of in line with The Hand of God, Paolo Sorrentino's movie.
Right.
And in other news as well, Indy 5 has wrapped shooting. So according to the Twitter account of producer Frank Marshall, this one sees Harrison Ford returning as history teacher relic hunter Indiana Jones at the ripe old age of 79.
He's hunting himself. He's his own relic.
He is. He's his own antique.
That's the film. He finds himself.
Yeah.
I found it.
Weird. Yeah. I found it.
I found myself.
You chose wisely. This is directed for the first time by someone other than L. Spielbergo himself. This one falls into the very capable hands of director James Mangold of The Wolverine, Ford versus Ferrari, and Walk the Line fame. It's also starring Thomas Kretschmann, Mads Mikkelsen, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and Antonio Banderas. And happily, will also feature the music of the wonderful John Williams.
Oh, yeah.
It's due to release on June 30th, 2023. How do you feel about indie coming back for one more adventure film?
I'm always up for a bit of indie. I think we've talked about it before, but I think Crystal Skull was a bit
shit.
Nah, I don't see it as shit as much as other people see it. I just enjoyed it as a bit of an adventure film.
Have you watched it recently?
Yeah, last year I watched it again. It's not great. It isn't, but it's also fun. I do hate Shia LaBeouf's character though in that.
The swinging through the trees with the monkeys scene was
Is he
regrettable.
Is he back in the new one?
No, he's not in the cast list. He's not in the cast list. I'd say what is interesting. I looked through the cast list today and I saw Thomas Kretschmann in there. Thomas Kretschmann, German actor, I believe. I haven't seen him in a lot of things since Peter Jackson's King Kong when he was the kind of the captain of the ship that takes him to Skull Island. But anyway, Thomas Kretschmann, interesting profile. Looks kind of similar to a young Harrison Ford. Check him out, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to this, check out Thomas Kretschmann on IMDb and tell me that he doesn't have something of a Harrison Ford about him. So I do wonder what they're going to be doing with this movie. I also love Mads Mikkelsen, so it's great to see Lashif.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, you love Mac. I love Mac.
I love Mac.
Mac's also in this from Predator. He'll be shaving.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. So yeah, I don't know. Interested to see it. We'll figure out whether or not it's any good, I guess, when it comes out. End of the news story. Let's jump into trailers. Phil, are you going to be commuting anywhere recently?
I was going to take the Bullet Train.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. I was going to try and link that in with your Bullet story earlier, but it was too late.
No bullets.
The bullets. Yeah. So this is the Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock, and Aaron Taylor Johnson starring film that I mentioned last year about it, the delay of its release. But the trailer was released a couple of days ago, wasn't it? It was very recently.
It was.
I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
And so this is, I'll give you a very quick synopsis. So this is Brad Pitt playing trained killer Ladybug. Great character name. He wants to give up the life, but is pulled back in by his handler, Maria Beetle, in order to collect a briefcase on a bullet train heading from Tokyo to Morioka. Once on board, he and the other competing assassins on board discover that their objectives are all connected. The trailer just looks like it's going to be just really good fun. Funny. It's just that sort of John Wick. It looks like sort of John Wick, but more funny, doesn't it?
Correct.
And obviously just set on a train.
Yeah, it definitely has that. It definitely has that kind of Neo John Wick kind of vibe, doesn't it? That original kind of lighting and all that kind of good stuff. But the comedy aspect of Deadpool 2, which David Leitch directed, film that we loved.
Deadpool 2 and Atomic Blonde, Fast and Furious. I think he did like the Hobbs and Shaw one, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just looks like it's right up my street. This kind of film, just good fun, action. Brad Pitt is always good.
I like how he seems kind of throughout it, kind of nonplussed by the whole thing. His character, Ladybug, kind of looks quite interesting. Whereas John Wick is obviously, regretfully pulled back into, murdering massive amounts of people. Brad Pitt kind of seems a little bit forlorn and rough around the edges, and kind of like, if I have to, kind of thing. There's a scene where he's fighting with Aaron Taylor Johnson, and he's just like, would you rather just like sit down and talk?
Yeah, you sure you don't want to just talk this out?
Yeah.
No.
So it does look awesome. So yeah, I mean, looking forward to it. When does this one come out, Phil?
That comes out on July 15th in the US. So yeah.
And that's cinema, is it? Looks like
cinema, cinema exclusive.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. It's a really nice looking cinematography in it as well, when the train's pulling into the station. Lots of like Tokyo neon colourful lights and nice lighting, sort of like wet platforms and just lots of just it all
You
looks
do love
nice.
a wet platform, don't you,
I love
Phil?
a wet platform in Tokyo. Yes.
Oh dear. Let me ask you a question, Phil.
Go on.
Have you seen the trailer for Netflix's Cliff Beasts 6, Battle for Everest, Memories of a Requiem?
I can't say I have, no.
What a shame. Go check it out because it's a movie starring Karen Gillan, Pedro Pascal of Mando fame, Keegan-Michael Key, Aaron, David Duchovny, Rob Delaney, Peter Serafinowicz, Maria Bakalova, and directed by Judd Apatow.
Wow.
This sees our heroes returning on April 1st on Netflix for the 6th installment of the People versus Flying Dinosaur movie franchise. Except it isn't. It's not a movie at all. It is, in fact, a genius marketing ploy from Judd Apatow and Netflix, as they will, in fact, be releasing Judd Apatow's new movie, The Bubble, on April 1st, about the cast and crew of this fictional film getting stuck in a production bubble during a global pandemic and having to quarantine in a hotel on filming location. This is based on the very public issues that Jurassic World Dominion ran into while director Colin Trevorrow was running the production during the early stages of the global COVID pandemic. So Judd Apatow basically sat down and said, there's a movie here somewhere. Well, Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum and Chris Pratt are sitting in a hotel, probably screaming at each other and throwing their own fecal matter across the room. Decided to create a movie. Interestingly and ironically, this will see a release before the next Jurassic World movie comes out. So this has not only been thought up, incepted, devised, created, produced, acted, and published, but it's also going to beat the Jurassic World movie that it's kind of based on.
Wow.
And we'll be riffing on. So this looks really fun, and anything starring Peter Serafinowicz gets our vote. He's amazing, and
he's brilliant.
My impression of most people is based on his impressions of people, his incredible impressions, my terrible ones. So Peter Serafinowicz is incredible. So The Bubble is going to be released on Netflix on April 1st globally. But yeah, go check out that trailer for Cliff Beast 6, Battle for Everest, Memories of a Requiem, because it looks insane. And the movie looks even better. So yeah.
Cool.
Any updates from Nick Cage Corner, Phil, this week?
Do you know what? No.
Oh.
No, I'm sure there's some Nick Cage news somewhere.
He's been up to something. I'm sure he's been up to something.
Yeah.
Well,
when was that?
Keep us
when was
updated,
that film
really.
coming out? The unbearable weight of massive talent. I want to see it.
I don't know, but I'm so excited to see it.
Me too.
It's a movie that has yet to be seen. What's it called? The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I think so.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, let's have a look here. Through the wonder of live entertainment, we can find out exactly when this movie will be released. April 22nd, 2022.
Not long.
No. Nick Cage and our friend Pedro Pascal from The Bubble.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris. Coming out. There seems to be in the cinema.
Cool.
So yeah, interesting one. Okay, April 22nd. Phil, please do keep us updated on the whereabouts of Nicolas Cage and whatever he may be doing.
I will.
Chewing, destroying, shouting at. As he is so probably licking something, isn't he, right now?
Yeah.
The bees. Okay. Let's jump into some spoiler-free reviews for the listener, shall we, Phil?
Yeah, go on then.
All right. Well, bear with me, folks. There's only one place to start, really, and that, of course, is with RBATS himself. Yes, it's another Batman. Yes, it's another rogues galley of Batman villains you've seen before. But why is Matt Reeves the Batman worth seeing? Well, this completely new Batman ventures into Gotham City's underworld when a sadistic killer leaves behind a trail of cryptic clues. As the evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans become clear, he must forge new relationships, unmask the culprit, and bring justice to the abuse of power and corruption that has long plagued the metropolis. The Batman might not be the most urgently in demand reboot of all time, but maybe that lack of expectation makes it more appealing. And it's here where the subversive power of a comic book movie posing as a deranged detective thriller really comes good. So out goes the alien invasions that we've seen in the Zack Snyder DC Universe movies that you will have seen recently, and the super team-ups with, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. In comes melancholy, depression, rain-soaked streets of Gotham, and a neo-noir Batman voiceover leading us from crime scene to crime scene. So not your typical superhero movie. This is basically a detective caper. In fact, there's little to no action in this to speak of. There is some, but very minimal elements of action. Where shall I start? Maybe start with Robert Pattinson. He's Bruce Wayne. He's Batman. He is kind of emo. He's a little miserable. I'm not going to lie.
He looked it from the trailers I've seen. He looks a bit emo. He's got his curtains.
Yeah, it's interesting because they use the Something in the Way, the Nirvana song, in the trailer, which you probably remember.
Yeah.
They use that throughout this movie as well. To really good effect, by the way. But it is a very kind of slapdash way of literally slapping you in the face and saying, this Bruce Wayne is basically Kurt Cobain. He's sad. And therefore you kind of fall more into the character. I would say that this is the first time I've seen a Batman Bruce Wayne combo where they're kind of the same person. There's no real juxtaposition between Batman and Bruce as you typically see. And we'll come on to a perfect example of that later in the episode. But all I would say is that one of Batman's superpowers isn't just the fact that he's a millionaire. It's also the fact that he pretends to be a happy multi-billionaire that, fornicates and lives his life the way he wants to live it. This is completely different. Robert Pattinson is basically Edward from Twilight, all grown up and not glowing as much, but definitely gloomy as much. And, kind of hanging out in dark corners of his house. And, he's got like kind of that black Batman mascara guy liner running down his cheeks for most of it. I found that a little hard to get into. I found it a little too mopey for me. I found it a little bit too, emo. I love emo, so it's kind of weird, but it doesn't really break out into any, rays of sunshine at any point. The rest of the cast, really interesting. Nice ensemble of players here. Zoe Kravitz coming in as Selena Kyle, who you'll know as Catwoman. Colin Farrell here in heavy prosthesis. I would say the most prosthesis you've seen since Robin Williams dressed up as Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello! But in this case, he is playing Oswald Cobblepot, who, of course, you'll know as the Penguin. And also Paul Dano as the Riddler, fully gimp suited up that you have seen in the trailer. I won't go too much into his character, but probably the most effective villain in this. It also comes along with a friend of the podcast, Andy Serkis, as the butler, Alfred. So out goes Michael Caine, in comes Andy Serkis. And of course, the parallel there is that this is directed by Matt Reeves, who was the director of Cloverfield, Let Me In, which was the remake of Let the Right One In, the vampire movie, and of course, Dawn/War of the Planet of the Apes, starring Andy Serkis as Caesar. So, you will know if you've seen those movies that they're dark, they're shot really well, they're epic in scale, and there's no difference here. So I mentioned before, not a lot of action. There is, I will say, a really great car chase with the new Batmobile, which is, very muscle car centric if you've seen it. If anyone plays Rocket League, by the way, it's very Rocket League. It has a massive booster on the back, and it does fly at some point. So
I'll let
pretty
you
cool.
know now. It's available to buy in Rocket League as a car.
Not sponsored by Rocket League or Epic Games in any way, by the way. But Phil and I do play a lot of Rocket League, if anyone is on there. So yeah, very, very, very cool car chase involving the Batmobile right in the middle of the movie, which was probably the one time that I felt my heart pumping during the film. There's also a scene with a Batwing suit, which I would say was cool. This is strange. This movie is strange because it doesn't so much start with it reintroducing us to the character. There's no Tom and Martha Wayne walking out of a theater, getting gunned down, and a pearl necklace being severed and falling into a puddle with neon lights there, and Ever Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight being said. It's it kind of drops us right in to Batman being Batman, which is cool because we've seen that a dozen times. Very similar to how Spider-Man Homecoming did it in the MCU, where Spider-Man is just Spider-Man. We didn't see him get bit by a spider. He's just Spider-Man.
He's just Spider-Man.
Yeah. But, obviously that's a fun, hilarious movie. There are very few laughs to be had here. There are a lot of David Fincher comparisons in this film. So, as you all know, Phil, my favorite film director, David Fincher, Matt Reeves really taking the lead from Fincher to create the Batman Fincher movie. Seven, Zodiac, Fight Club, these are movies that there are a lot of parallels from. In particular, Seven, the detective movie starring Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, a film where it constantly rains in a nondescript US city. It's the same thing here. It basically almost never stops raining in this film. Looks awesome in parallel with a lot of Fincher movies. It also has that Fight Club level clash between oppressors and the oppressed, and how the oppressed wish to rise up. Very similar to how 2019's Joker did it, which you'll remember, someone that's oppressed and cast aside in society wants to, create a movement. So for fans of Fincher, you're basically going to see David Fincher's Batman movie, shot by Greg Fraser, who obviously shot Rogue One and more recently Dune, a film that we both love the look of, Phil.
Absolutely, yeah.
Greg Fraser returning here to shoot this one. Looks awesome. Michael Giacchino, probably the busiest composer in film right now, comes in to score this one. I read somewhere, I'm going to steal this from another reviewer, but I read somewhere how his new theme for Batman is this weird kind of 4-chord warning. So you basically hear this kind of dum 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 dum, and it's a bit like a Jaws theme. It's basically the ominous undertone that Batman is going to appear and terrorize hoodlums and criminals in Gotham at any moment. Right. Really cool. Works really well, and I love that. I loved how they used that. And I'm sorry for not being able to reference who said that, but I think whoever it was just absolutely nailed that. The Batman, it's a love letter to the hero's origin. It's he basically is supposed to be the world's greatest detective, not some pumped up action hero running around with guns killing people, which is something that I think has been forgotten by recent Batman installments. But Matt Reeves' film serves as a reminder to all what the D in DC actually stands for, and for that, I really enjoyed this, I have to say.
It sort of sounds like it's because I'm intrigued about this because I remember I've watched the trailers and stuff, but it sort of feels like it's like LA Noire meets Batman. Like people that know like the game LA Noire that came out years ago, which is like what was that, 20s? No, when was it set? It wasn't the 20s,
it was later 40s, 50s. Yeah, 40s, it was after 50s, World War II. Yeah,
sort of detective game. It sort of sounds like it's LA Noire meets Batman.
It is. And I think noir is actually the perfect word to sum up this film. I mean, it's got that, that diary read by Robert Pattinson throughout the film. Kind of similar to Rorschach in Watchmen, if anyone ever watched that. It's got that kind of constant driving tone. Interrogation scenes that you will have seen in other Batman movies are kind of, taken in other directions here. But it's definitely that. Corrupt cops You know, it's really good. I mean, I would say that I'm the target audience for this because I absolutely love David Fincher movies. I'm a big Matt Reeves fan. I'm a big Giacchino fan. I'm a big Greg Fraser fan. I would say that it the one thing it kind of did to me is make me want to see a David Fincher Batman movie. You know, it definitely is kind of an ode, love letter to the films of David Fincher. But it did really kind of make me want to see it. And I think for that, I kind of fall short of the typical all out, I absolutely recommend this, I loved it type. Didn't want to go straight back and see it. Didn't want to go back to the theater and see it straight away. It is 3 hours long, so it's a long film. But it's not anything new, but it isn't continuing on in the same vein as all these other superhero movies that you've seen recently. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've kind of alluded to it there, but The Batman gets a Moviemouth podcast recommendation. It is available in all markets in theaters right now, except Russia. So, yeah, if you're that way inclined, if you love things a little dark, if you love the Batman, and if you're not really into comic book movies, but you like detective movies, go see it. Recommended.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes, indeed. So one other thing to review this week, and then we'll keep this one short. It's another Apple TV show. So I'm surprising myself because really at the start of this year, I don't think I'd sat through an entire season of anything on Apple TV Plus. It's been pretty disappointing so far. Be it, you know, the big budget Duna-like Foundation based on Isaac Asimov's writings, or future blind Viking romp C, starring Aquaman himself. But it's in the weirdness that the platform seems to come alive. It's, you know, I mentioned before M. Night Shyamalan's Servant. And now here with another S, Ben Stiller's weird and wonderful Severance. Have you seen much of this film? You seen anything of this yet?
I haven't. No, I haven't, but I've heard good things.
It's very, very strange. It's basically an original concept, which has been written by Dan Erickson and Mohammed El Masri. It basically focuses on Adam Scott's Mark. So Adam Scott, you'll remember, was the irritating douchebag Derek in Step Brothers. And you know, he was in Parks and Rec, and he's in a ton of things. But I've always loved him. I think he's fantastic.
He is good.
And here he finally gets the lead in a TV show. Mark leads a team of office workers whose memories have been surgically divided between their work and personal lives. When a mysterious colleague appears outside of work, it begins a journey to discover the truth about their jobs. So I'll kind of take a step back. Basically, what this is about people that go to an office in a kind of alternate reality to where we are today. They choose to forget going to work, meaning that they get to just live their lives outside of work and not even know what they did at work today, not know how boring work was, or not have to do anything at work. They basically go to work, they in their minds fall asleep and then wake up again leaving work. On the flip side of that, you've got the people that have actually got into work. Now, these people are fully aware of the fact that they're at work, but they have no recollection of their lives outside of work. They don't know what themselves are doing outside of work. So they're just there focused on work. And of course, the downside of that being is that when they leave work, they immediately wake back up and they're walking back into work. So they never escape.
That sucks.
It fucking sucks. So, you know, it's a really interesting concept. It's a really interesting concept about the duality of our work-life balance, about how many of us, perhaps from a capitalistic viewpoint, choose to go to work to do a job that we don't love in order to maintain a personal life that we do want to focus on, how we compromise ourselves in that way, and how, given the choice, would we decide to cut out that part of our personality that goes to work and just let that happen and forget about it and focus on whatever it is that you're actually doing. This is great. I'm 4 episodes into this. It's releasing weekly on Apple TV Plus. It's shot really well also. I mean, I don't know if you've seen much of Ben Stiller's movies. Obviously, the likes of Zoolander, Tropic Thunder, people will have seen. But he is on TV, I would say, moving more towards this indie alternative cinema piece. I would say that started very much with, maybe he kind of dipped his toe with The Cable Guy, which was a very dark comedy that, Jim Carrey starring comedy that came out back in the 90s. But, most recently with The Strange Life of Walter Mitty that he starred in and directed, this is kind of going along those lines of this kind of neo, almost communist workplace, stripped down to the bare bones and very cold and shot very, very clinically. Not unlike his show that he did for Showtime a couple of years ago, Escape at Dannemora, starring Paul Dano, which was a really unsettling show. So anyway, is this a comedy? Kind of is. It kind of isn't. It's really good. It's very dark. I would say the cast in this are fantastic. Adam Scott, you've got in there. You've got Britt Lower starring as Helly, who's the newcomer to the workplace. John Turturro is in this. He's fantastic in this. Christopher Walken is in this. Patricia Arquette is also great in this. She was in Escape to Dannemora as well. So always good to see her. So this is really good. There's no Ben Stiller in it so far. He's not starring in this. He just directs most of the episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very much enjoying it. Really, along for the ride for it. I would say the only downside to this is that Apple TV decided to release it on a Friday. And this is definitely very un-Friday night friendly content. It's not really the kind of thing you want to be watching on a Friday night.
It's not your feel-good Friday program.
Most definitely not.
Right.
Most definitely not. And especially the episode that we watched last night. So it definitely doesn't have that, that kind of, fun Friday night vibe. But
yeah,
you got to see it. I think it's really good. I think it's really interesting. Good. I have no idea where it's going. So that's, another thing that's going for it. So we'll come back to this later. But for now, 4 episodes in on Apple TV Plus. Give Severance a go. Recommended by the Moviemouth podcast.
Cool.
All right. Well, Phil, all reviews aside, should we amp it up a little bit?
Let's do it.
Should we go back in time?
I want to go back to 1989.
In that case, it's time for this. Yes. For our new listeners, Video Store Corner is our classic film discussion section where we like to rent a movie from the video store era and sit down to watch it, just like back in the old days. And then, of course, Phil and I discuss it in spoiler-filled detail. We do release our Video Store Corner picks each week on our Instagram account to give you a little time to watch it. We also give you the chance to vote on it. This time, Phil, we decided not to because, well, I'll give you an explanation as to why we didn't do it. We felt that with the release of The Batman, it would be a prime opportunity to look back at the comic book movie that really started it all and see how far these films, in particular, these characters have come. So, Phil, what did we watch this week?
What did we watch indeed? Well, we watched the 1989 classic, cult classic, I would say, and just classic in general, that is Tim Burton's Batman.
Oh.
Now,
well, what a movie.
What a film. I mean, it holds a place dear to my heart because it's one that really was with me growing up. I remember watching this when I was younger, and I will say I've not seen this for a long time. Like, I can't remember the last time I've watched this through. Like, definitely not in the last maybe 10 years at least.
Yeah,
since I've seen this, at least maybe 15 years since I've seen this properly. And it's funny actually because I was in the pub last night with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this because Tim, who I was with and who you know very well, but he was he's a huge Batman fan, and I was asking him about his thoughts on on this one in particular, and he, loves it like the rest of us. And we were just saying like how much of a sort of impact it had on us growing up. Like we were talking about like the figures we have. Like I had the Batman figure from this film with like the belt that you pull out and it retracts back. We were talking about that. We both had that figure.
Oh, like the grappling hook belt.
The grappling hook belt. Yeah. And I've do you know what? I've still got my Batmobile car from this film, like the toy.
Was that the Batmobile car that fits the figure?
Yes, so the bigger one, and it had like 2 missiles you could put in the thing.
And it didn't have a roof, did it? It didn't have
no roof. It was like a convertible.
Weird,
and you could I think you pulled like the gear lever, and it like fired the missiles out of the bonnet. Like there's 2 like spring-loaded yellow missiles that you could load into like the flaps in the bonnet, so they'd pop up and fire out these missiles. I've still got that. And it's funny because like the first few minutes that the film's on, you get that scene where you first see Batman, Michael Keaton as Batman, and he's like dangling that guy off the roof, and he's like in a panic where he's like, "Who are you?" Like and that immediately took me back to the Amiga game. The Amiga.
Oh my goodness me!
Like I played the Batman game on the Amiga, and that was like the intro. There was like a pixelated version of that drawn in like 16-bit or whatever. Or 8-bit or whatever it was, with a weird like MIDI sound file of that scene. It's ding, 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 oh man, it just threw me straight back to being a kid.
It did the exact same thing to me. I think you and I were born the same year. For me, I think this is the first blockbuster that I can remember being released. Like something that really, when it was released, it was just everywhere. It was massive. It was
huge.
People wearing that Batman logo T-shirt everywhere. People. Do you remember that? I just remember. I remember.
We collected the cards as well, like the trading cards.
Topps cards. They were. Yeah.
Yeah. They came with the chewing gum stick in the packets, right? And I remember. Here's another memory. I accidentally swallowed some of that chewing gum, and I thought I was going to die because I was told that you should never swallow chewing gum. But it's the kind of chewing gum that like turns to mush after you chew on it for about 5 minutes.
No, but you know that it stays in your system forever, Phil. So that chewing gum
it never leaves.
Still inside you somewhere.
It's still there. 1989
explains
Batman
everything.
Chewing gum. It's all in there. It's lodged in my brain somewhere.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because enough time has passed. But my brother at this time worked for Blockbuster Video, which is relevant here because. It's Video Store Corner. And he worked at Blockbuster Video in Worthing, West Sussex.
What a place.
And I remember that he somehow, through his spies, in the movie industry spies, even though he just worked at Blockbuster, managed to get a hold of a pirate copy of this. And we watched it. I was like 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we watched it with my dad, and we all watched it. It was a really bad copy, but it only added the poorness of the film transfer onto the video. It was probably recorded in a theater somewhere.
Yeah.
Only added to the murkiness of the movie and the kind of underlying drama and creepiness of it all.
Yeah.
But it's so weird that you said that, how this film makes you kind of remember things, because watching this, I was sat watching this and quoting along with it like I'd seen it a year ago, but I haven't seen it in 15 years.
Yeah.
And I like all that, like you say, the "Who are you?"
Yeah.
I'm Batman. Like all that stuff.
Yeah. It's just so like, do you know what? It's funny. Like that's exactly the same experience I did. We watched it. Me and my brother managed to get like a pirate copy off of a friend of my brother's at school. Like, that's how we watched it. I don't even know what language it was. It was English, but it was like, it was just, it was a definite pirate copy at the time. But that's the only way we could watch it, being like, however old it was. Not that old.
No, it's crazy. And I think it's probably the first, being a Brit, I think it's probably the first time that I was aware of, superheroes other than Superman, because at the time Christopher Reeve's Superman was like, the be all and end all of superhero movies. Every other movie that had come out was kind of straight to video. There was a really weird Spider-Man movie that me and my brother used to watch, and we would cry laughing when when he'd be climbing up the walls and things. It was bad. And the Batman TV show with Adam West that was great, but was so camp.
Oh god! I mean, I had Batman the movie on video. We got given that as a Christmas present. The Adam West one, the shark repellent, the helicopter. Oh my god, the whole thing is amazing,
phenomenal.
But yeah, we had that on video. I used to watch that all the time.
So you booted this film up. You watched this film. I mean, do you want to just jump into the plot, for those people that haven't seen it? If you haven't seen it, go away and watch it. Obviously, it's
pretty simple, really. I mean, you've got Batman. He wants to go on his sort of war against crime, against his first sort of major enemy, that is Jack Napier, played by Jack Nicholson, who becomes the clownishly homicidal Joker. I mean, it's just Jack Nicholson in this, such a good performance as the Joker. Like, as I said, like, because it's been so long since I watched it, I couldn't really remember like the whole part of how he turns into the Joker. Like, it was that long that I couldn't remember. Like,
I remember that. I remember that viscerally, just because of how haunting it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, once they're in the factory, I was like, oh yeah, he falls into the proper neon green vat of toxic, comic goo. But yeah, I think the main thing I got out of this was that I always thought this film was a lot more serious than it is. Like, I always thought it was darker than it is.
Right.
Like, it's funny. And it's funny in places it shouldn't be funny as well.
Right. Correct. Jack Nicholson talking to a flaming corpse, for example, a smoking corpse, for example.
Yeah, which is amazing. But like,
I'm glad you're dead.
But there's
glad you're dead.
And he's like, terrible tie. It's brilliant. But like, there's bits in this that I don't think were meant to be funny at the time that I found hilarious. Like, we were laughing out loud, like me and my wife watching it, because I think part of it is due to the costume that Batman
it's the cowl.
has.
It's the cowl. Is the problem.
Michael Keaton can clearly not move in that costume.
He cannot move his neck. He cannot turn his head from left to right.
What happens is he looks like a meerkat. Like, every time he's looking at something, he's just like. And he just like pops up. He just like pops up and like looks left to right. But
he has to rotate his entire body basically in order to move his head,
which is hilarious.
It is hilarious. It is hilarious.
It's amazing, but it's also showing its age. Like, there's some really but I love it. Like, there's like the proper matte painting stuff going on. And like the backgrounds and stuff, but like really obvious matte paintings with like bits of smoke like superimposed over them and things like of Gotham. But I love the feel of that Gotham. I love the feel that it's that mix of like, sort of 20s, 30s Art Deco, and modern, being modern in the late 80s sort of mix. That's like all the reporters and stuff have still got like the sort of trilby hats on and like pinstripe suits and stuff, and the police still dress in the long trench coats with hats and cigars, and it feels like 20s mixed with like, and all the, and it's like, it's so cool when they go to they zoom into that scene where they go to Bruce Wayne's party, and in like the grounds of his house you've got a mix of like 20s sort of gangster type cars, like old, Fords and stuff, mixed with those 80s, like, just like boxy American,
Ford Cortinas,
like Chevys and stuff, just like, it's really cool. I love the mix of the styles in it. There
is a lot of fairly jarring special effects in this that I didn't realize at the time. There's like that top down scene at the beginning.
Oh, it's bad.
The first
I know
view
exactly
you have
which
Batman.
one you mean.
Yeah, it's like looking down a building and you see there's Batman stood there with a cape, but he's like clearly hand-drawn animated.
It's like animated, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Also, there's the Batwing crash scene, which is like clearly just like a model, right?
A really bad model, yeah.
Well, how much did that kind of thing, like when you were a kid, how much did that kind of thing like appeal to you so much? Because you were like, that's so cool. It looks like my toys at home. Like I could recreate that scene by.
It was like watching Thunderbirds.
Exactly.
Yeah, just like watching Thunderbirds. Yeah.
Exactly. So no, you are right. You are right. It does still stand up, I think. It does. It just about still stands up to the test of time.
Yeah. I mean, you know what does look good? You know when he's got the Batmobile and he speaks into that little thing, which is fun, hilarious. Like that he speaks into this thing. It's like go
shields,
like shields, armor, shields, whatever. That looks really cool when like the shields go over the Batmobile.
It does look cool.
Yeah,
I've
really
always
cool.
loved that scene.
Yeah,
I've
it's
always
brilliant.
loved that scene. There is something weird about this film. I think the plot is a little light. There's not really much of a plot. It's basically Jack Nicholson falls into a vat of chemicals, becomes the Joker, and prances around Gotham, trying to sleep with various women, including Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale.
Yeah.
While in the background, he is mixing chemicals into everyday products so that when they are applied in kind of collaboration with each other. So, for example, you brush your teeth with toothpaste and then you use a mouthwash, will turn you into a smiling corpse.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. It's not really, you kind of have to follow it. You kind of have to really dig in to kind of figure out what is going on in this.
Yeah.
It's also more of a love story than I thought it was.
Yeah, but it's got that massive problem that a lot of films of that era, and still now it happens a lot. Like, so Vicky Vale meets Bruce Wayne once, right? Next thing is they're going out on a date. They sleep together, and then
same night, by the way. Same night.
Yeah. Oh, is it the same night? Yeah.
First date. Yeah.
And then it's just like, you know, the next scene along, it's like, I had feelings for you for the first moment I met you, which was like yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like that whole sort of like, this is a bit, rushed and sort of like, a bit ridiculous. But, you know, the whole thing's ridiculous anyway.
Yes.
One thing I did find hilarious was the fact that there's that dramatic but it's also really undramatic scene where the Batmobile's being chased around by the two like Joker's henchmen cars, you know, like the painted like cars.
Yeah.
And one of like the cool I say with, you know, raised fingers in the air parts of the Batmobile is that he has to get like a grappling hook hooked around a thing just to turn around the corner. That was like a special move.
Yes. Weird.
Like the car couldn't turn left.
Yeah,
so
I guess it was at the speed it was going at. It was going at an incredible speed.
Incredibly slow.
It did.
To be
incredibly
fair,
slow.
It looked really, really slow. It's like the slowest car chase ever.
But they did build that Batmobile. I mean, that was the cool thing. You could tell it was real. Like when it was driving, you know, and the leaves cluttering up. I mean, it was real. It was full size, full scale. But
it was.
I mean, one issue with that is how they sped it up.
It looked bad.
Kind of did look bad, didn't it? And it's because you got flames coming out the back of a car. If you speed it up, the flames move way too quick. So then it just looks weird, you know?
It's like immediately look bad.
But I think I'm going to put it out there. I know you haven't seen the Batman yet, but I'm going to say that the 1989 Batmobile is the best Batmobile.
It is, 100%. I know what all the Batmobiles look like, and it's 100% the best looking Batmobile and one of the best movie cars ever.
Ever. Yeah.
It looks cool as fuck.
Yeah. Do you own it in Rocket League by any chance?
Yes.
So do I.
Yes, I do.
All right, let's stop talking about this. This is the Welcome to the Rocket League podcast. Yes, no, it's phenomenal. All the vehicles in this are actually really cool. I even let out a laugh of glee with the Joker's helicopter. Like he's gone to the pains of, within just a few days, of building his own helicopter and painting it like yellow, green, and purple. And
I love the fact that all of his henchmen have suddenly got like bomber jackets with the patches on. Like he got them made and produced. Like, you know,
love that brilliant. Joker.
I want one of those jackets. To be fair,
me too. I actually want one of the Batman suits so I can turn and tilt my entire body when I want to look at something.
Yeah, you want no movement in your neck.
But let's just talk about, you know, the cast in this. I mean, interestingly, for a Batman movie, you get Nicholson playing the villain's name first on the poster.
Yeah.
And that's because at the time, Jack Nicholson was a significantly bigger name than Michael Keaton.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, obviously came into this really as the star of this movie. for me, when I was a kid, I always thought that Batman was the star of this film. If you watch this now, it's Jack Nicholson's Joker that is the star of this film.
100%. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. He gets way more screen time.
He must have more screen time. Screen time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have cast a better actor other than Robin Williams, who we know was originally linked to the role.
He was. I've got a bit of trivia about that later.
Or Jim Carrey. I think those are the only two people that I could say could go on this same level with Jack Nicholson. But Nicholson kills it as Joker. Yeah. And for me, and I know I'm in a minority, remains the best screen Joker of all time.
I agree. 100%. Yeah.
Just brilliant. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of Heath Ledger fans out there, but I just think he's great.
But Jack Nicholson was better.
He was insane.
Yeah.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Just so many lines as well. There's so many incredible lines that he spits out in this.
Yeah.
There's that scene where Jack Palance, who's the crime boss that basically sends him to be killed, he comes back and he's like, Jack, you are my number one guy. And then you see the scene where Jack Nicholson does it to his henchman, Bob, because you are my number one guy. Just all these lines that like,
Bob the Goon.
Bob the Goon.
Also, as a quick mention for Jack Palance, like, obviously I know him from like, what is it? It's
City Slickers.
City Slickers, yeah. But like when he's speaking that, because he's got such a distinctive voice, Jack Palance. And when we were watching it, my wife was like, why is he talking like that? I was like, that's how he talks. Because he's amazing.
100%. He's Curly from City Slickers and City Slickers 2, the Search for Curly's Gold.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Bob the Goon, who we know was in Repo Man, a film that we watched recently for Video Store Corner.
He was
also in City Slickers with Jack Palance.
Wow.
So take that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Yes. So Jack Palance says that line to Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson says that line to Bob the Goon. And they both end up in a film together.
Brilliant. Well,
there you go. I'm here all week.
Do you know what other scene stuck in my mind for something that was a bit weird? You know, when you first meet, you meet the corrupt cop Eckhart.
Yes,
he's the big guy with the cigar, like very portly guy,
and the cigar chomping cop. Yeah.
But that scene, like they clearly redubbed it.
Yes,
it's so sharp. Like the vocal in it is just like so clear. It's really weird because you get like no other like background noise, but you've got these super clear, crisp, deep vocals. It's really odd, but I love it.
He says like, I'm gonna go get a cigar and kill Jack Napier.
Yeah, it's just really it's really weird, but I liked it.
I was mostly impressed. I mean, by a lot of the additional actors in this. This was famously filmed in England, so a lot of the extra cast in this. There's a lot of people that have cropped up in a lot of the drama TV shows in England over the years, which was fun to spot as well. A lot of people that we probably have grown up watching on TV as well in the background of Gotham City.
Yeah,
but that I thought was really cool. It just go on.
No, I just, do you know what? One thing I completely forgot, and I didn't write a note about it, but I was like at the time, and exactly for that reason, I recognized in one scene in the police station, he doesn't have a speaking part, but it's definitely the guy that plays Cassandra's dad from Only Fools and Horses is like one of the policemen behind like the counter in the police station. Yeah, it's really weird.
Only Fools and Horses, for our listeners, American listeners, is the greatest UK sitcom of all time in my book.
Yeah,
it's just a wonderful show. Random, but if you get the chance to watch it, yes, for Anglophiles out there, if you like British comedy and you don't mind something a little 80s 90s, check out Only Fools and Horses. It's absolutely wonderful. And Phil and I both grew up watching it. Brilliant.
Yes, they did do an American version, which is a bit criminal, but still, we'll ignore that.
Wow. Yeah. So it's hard to say anything bad about this film, really. I just think that it's just got it all. It definitely, if you watch it now and you've seen all these comic book movies since, it definitely sets the template for every single comic book movie, doesn't it? It's got elements of comedy, elements of lightness, darkness. It's got a great villain. It's got an excellent Batman. I would say, I had a discussion with my girlfriend about this, how I think that Michael Keaton is still the best Batman.
Yeah.
But I also think he's the best Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, because I think he's the one Bruce Wayne. And again, I was talking to my mate Tim about this last night. He's the one Bruce Wayne that I think gets across the awkwardness of the character of Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Like, he's an awkward, like, not very good at being social billionaire or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And he plays that perfectly. He's
he
like,
does.
even when they see him at the party, he's like, he doesn't even admit who he is to start with.
Yeah.
And then, he's just intrigued by everyone, but he's just really awkward. It's brilliant.
He's brilliant. He's very detached, isn't he? He's detached, but in a comedic way that's funny, because you know that he's Bruce Wayne, you know that he's Batman, but no one else really. He doesn't really open that up to anybody else. It's such a good performance, and I think that, obviously Tim Burton had worked with Keaton on Beetlejuice, and had really petitioned. When he got the Batman gig, he really petitioned to get Keaton in the role. The studio, Warner Brothers, didn't want him. They wanted a big name, but and that famous story. But they obviously brought in Michael Keaton, and it was an absolute success. I think they've tried, to better that. I think Christian Bale is phenomenal, by the way, and I'm not, I'm not certainly talking him down. It's just different, but. They then tried to bring in Val Kilmer. They then tried to bring in George Clooney, and bringing in these kind of big names with, an oeuvre of movies, and, the people that could potentially deliver an audience to Batman didn't work. Whereas bringing in actors like Keaton with pathos, like Christian Bale, like Robert Pattinson, people that actually are character actors as opposed to just being megastars, clearly worked and set that template going forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I think. I don't know if you differ on that. I just think he's a phenomenal Batman.
I agree. I think he's a great Batman. I think he's brilliant. Like, it's not like he's. I mean, you get it's all a bit stiff in like the way it's filmed. It's like he's not like he doesn't know his like karate moves, and he's not like a martial artist. He's just a guy that is all right in a fight, I suppose, but he doesn't even look like the kind of guy that can handle himself in a fight.
No, he doesn't. There's that scene where the Joker breaks in with all of his henchmen into Vicky Vale's apartment, and Keaton's there, and he stands up to them, and he does that, but he looks really small and short compared to all the henchmen and everybody that's there.
Yeah,
but he does that. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts scene, which is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
That day he must have turned up and been like, okay, this is my first day on set with playing against Nicholson. Nicholson's coming in here, intimidating me. No doubt Nicholson was owning this movie. Like, it's my movie. He obviously walked in like assuming 100%. It was his movie. He's a producer as well on this. Michael Keaton is like just, playing the part of Bruce Wayne, but he went head to head with him. And, I think Nicholson goaded him. And I think that it comes across in this. And then you got that amazing end scene, it appears we have a bat in our belfry, where, they fight in the Gotham City Cathedral. And it's just a brilliant end. I was dying with laughter when he's on the ladder, when Joker's on the ladder,
he's laughing
trying
his
to
head
climb up. Yeah, and he's just laughing his head off. He's like, oh, and then Batman fires like the grappling hook around his leg and attaches it to the gargoyle on top of the building. And he's like, oh, ooh, and he's like,
and he's like looking at the gargoyle going, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant, that whole scene.
They don't make them like they used to. Oh,
oh my god,
so
right,
good.
Do you want some trivia about this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So, as you alluded to earlier, Robin Williams was offered the role of Joker when Jack Nicholson hesitated. He had even accepted the role when producers approached Nicholson again and told him that Williams would take the part if he did not. Nicholson took the role and Williams was released.
Wow.
Apparently, Williams resented being used as bait and not only refused to play Riddler in Batman Forever in 1995, but also refused to be involved in any Warner Brothers production until the studio apologized.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I would love to have seen.
But I think
Williams
they became good friends, didn't they? Yeah, I would as well. I think Robin Williams and Jack Nicholson were good friends.
Yeah,
they were good friends.
Jack Nicholson said of this role, the thing I liked about the Joker is that his sense of humor is completely tasteless. He later said that the Joker is one of his favorite roles. Yeah,
that's what I love. That's what I love about him. That scene where he kills the guy with the hand shocking thing is just so good, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had a toy of that. It's so weird, isn't it? Like they made toys of things that killed people. But yeah, we had a toy of that buzzer that he used when he shook the hand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I did as well.
Jack Nicholson said, Jack Nicholson received a percentage of the gross on the film. And due to its massive box office take, he took home around $60 million.
Yep.
Wow.
And that led him to retire. That's why he's barely in any movies. He doesn't need to be in them at all.
He got 60 mil.
No. Yeah.
This is interesting. So it says Michael Keaton, who calls himself a logic freak, was concerned that Batman's secret identity would, in reality, be fairly easy to uncover, and discussed ideas with Tim Burton to better disguise the character, including the use of contact lenses. Ultimately, Keaton decided to perform Batman's voice at a lower register than when he was portraying Bruce Wayne. This technique has obviously become a staple of future portrayals of Batman in basically everything: film, TV, games, everything. So yeah, that's quite interesting. So he sort of came up with that idea. Also, Michael Keaton was unable to hear while wearing the bat suit. He said that his claustrophobia helped him in the proper to get into the proper mood to play Batman. He said it made me go inward, and that's how I wanted the character to be anyway, to be withdrawn. He said. So I'm not surprised.
Good to know. That's good to know. That definitely comes across, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is pretty cool as well. So, in order to combat negative rumors around the production, a theatrical trailer was hastily assembled to be distributed to theaters. To test its effectiveness, Warner Brothers executives showed it at a theater in Westwood, California, to an unsuspecting audience. The 90-second trailer received a standing ovation. Later, it would become a popular bootleg at comic book conventions. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah,
that is
cool. They just like threw together this trailer. Imagine being like the first person to see like it'd be weird. This I absolutely love. Right, this is Jack Nicholson. This is exactly how I picture Jack Nicholson. Right, so Jack Nicholson had a strict schedule stipulated into his contract that his casting call was to be later than most actors and actresses on set. Nicholson was known for having late evenings up to 3 a.m. before he would get home, as he dined out every night or attended small parties. Michael Keaton would arrive early in the mornings, and Nicholson would come in around 10 a.m. at the earliest and greet Keaton, then sit on his chair. He would then tilt his head back and fall asleep immediately as the makeup artist worked on his prosthetics. So he's been up till 3 a.m. getting wasted, and then he just arrives as late as he wants, tilts his head back, goes to sleep while they put his makeup on.
What a hero. Gave zero fucks.
Absolutely zero. And then this is really interesting, because I was wondering this while we were watching it, because there's scenes in the film where obviously Jack Nicholson as the Joker falls into the vat and it colors his skin like a very, very pale white, doesn't it? And there's scenes in it that he then puts makeup on over his white skin to make himself look more normal. And there's scenes in it where he wipes off some of that makeup. And it's like, that's pretty clever, because how do you wipe off makeup that's applied over other makeup?
Correct.
But they've said that in obviously the Joker has to mask his chalk white face by painting himself flesh colored. In the script, it was specified that the Joker would have to take the flesh colored makeup off to reveal the white skin underneath, meaning that the makeup effects team had to find a way to make one layer, like to take one layer of makeup off and then leave the other intact. So they came up with a solution, which was to paint Jack Nicholson with white Pax paint that they always used, and then put a thin layer of food-grade silicone oil, which nothing sticks to, on top of it. So they then took the flesh-coloured grease paint and painstakingly painting it to where it was literally sitting on top of the oils. They then airbrushed and faded it in to make it look natural. And then after soaking the Joker's handkerchief in isopropyl alcohol, Nicholson was able to like wipe his face so it wipes off the grease paint, like leaving the white.
Amazing.
It's so cool because he does that in the thing, doesn't he, where he's like dabbing his head with his handkerchief, but it's got like alcohol and it's wiping off that top layer. So cool as like a filmmaking
That's
technique.
Such like it's such a Tim Burton like kind of trope, isn't it? That like darkness of a character having makeup on and like that weirdness of it like dripping off him. It's very Beetlejuice-esque as well, isn't it, in places like that kind of thing.
Definitely. And then a couple of other short ones. So we mentioned the scene earlier on, like the finale to the film in the cathedral, the Gotham City Cathedral. So when the Joker and Vicky Vale is there, Joker radios for transportation for two to arrive in 10 minutes, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then really coolly, between entering the cathedral and the arrival of the Joker's helicopter...
he says 5 minutes and they go...
Better make it 10.
Better make it 10. Yeah. He? After he looks at the stairs because he sees how many stairs there are. And he goes, better make it 10.
Well, the time between them entering there and the helicopter arriving to pick him up is 10 minutes.
Wow. That's
it's
awesome.
Like real time. Yeah, which is really cool.
10 minutes of shoe throwing and bell falling with acid.
I did say, like, during that, I was like, who throws a shoe?
I mean, who throws a shoe? I mean, really?
He does at Batman.
Wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?
And then one last cool one. A scene that was cut from the parade sequence, which with all the crazy balloons, which is another thing I really remember.
And the Prince music, which also we should give a shout out to the Prince soundtrack and Bat Dance and all that stuff. Yeah.
Great soundtrack. So yeah, it was a scene that was cut from that, but it made it in the comic book version of the script, where the crowd discovered that all the money that the Joker was handing out was counterfeit. In a follow-up to the Joker's earlier line that he wanted my face on the $1 bill, all of the dollar bills were thrown to the crowd that had they had the Joker's face in place of George Washington's. So like the money was all fake that they were throwing out.
It's weird that I seem to remember that somehow, and I don't know why, but maybe I've seen an outtake or something on one of the DVDs over the years.
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot more trivia on this, but I could go on forever. But yeah,
it's such an interesting movie. It really is, and you know, there's a lot to be said for Batman Returns, the follow up. We should probably just say a couple of things about. Again, I haven't seen that in a long time, but
no. I'm going to watch that
I
soon.
seem to remember really enjoying that. I also remember it's a Christmas movie, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
A superhero Batman movie at Christmas. But it definitely continued the character. Loved all that stuff with Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and all that. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a shame that Tim Burton didn't come back for the third one. I did enjoy Batman Forever, which was a continuation, allegedly, of this character. And I think, you know, Edward Nygma, Jim Carrey being in that one was great. And then, of course, you also get Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Yeah. And if you remember in this Batman, Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams of Lando Calrissian fame.
Indeed.
And is then recast as Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Which was kind of weird. Yeah. But if you watch it, and if you think about it, don't you think Tommy Lee Jones was kind of playing Jack Nicholson playing Two-Face?
I think Tommy Lee Jones was like playing the character he plays in the Steven Seagal film. What is it? On the submarine.
Oh, Under Siege.
Under Siege,
on the ship. Yeah,
I feel like he's just playing the same character as that.
I love that movie. I don't know. He's got like a real southern drawl.
Yeah, he's also got an amazing character name, which I need to now search for.
Oh, is it like Dakota something?
I'm going to find out.
But no, I think, I think that villains wise, I think that he's still the most memorable as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, yeah. I need to find it. I can't find it.
It's weird though. It's weird talking about Michael Keaton because he is actually returning as Bruce Wayne.
He is
in the Flash movie, so he's coming back. We're going to see him again.
I'm looking
it's
forward to
interesting. Me too, man. Me too. I love Michael Keaton. I don't know what it is about him. I just find him really wholesome and great to watch. And usually everything he's in is usually pretty decent, you know. But yeah, no, I loved watching this film again. I thought it was such a cozy, like fun movie to watch. I actually watched this the same day as the Batman, and the juxtaposition was really weird. Totally bizarre contrast.
Yeah.
But and it did, like, the way that Pattinson played it versus the way Keaton played it is completely different, and it does miss that. The character does miss that in the Batman, and I know we're kind of talking about the older movie, but it does miss that duality of having a fairly fun Bruce Wayne, crossed with a very dark.
Yeah, it's been all the Batman films since, I think, have been just really serious.
Correct.
Hence the why so serious. But yeah, still, like, I don't know. It's just like, it's not comic Batman. There's not been comic Batman since.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
William Stranix. That's the name of the character.
William Stranix. Oh, I love that movie. We need to watch that movie. Although I think Steven Seagal is being blacklisted now for his involvement in Putin's war. So.
Oh God, right, yeah. Well, let's get Anyway.
Anywho, did you love it, Phil? Did you enjoy it?
I did love it. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it so much. I didn't even. I was going to rent it from Amazon Prime. It was £3.49 to rent Batman in HD from Amazon Prime, or it's $4.99 to buy it. So I just bought it. I can watch it again and again.
You can watch it anytime you like.
Exactly.
In the US here, it was on Hulu. Weirdly, because it's Warner Brothers. I thought it'd be on HBO, but it's available to watch for free on Hulu if you've got that subscription. So go and do that. How do you feel, Phil? We're back in the saddle. How are you feeling about it?
I feel good. I feel great.
You look great. I know the listeners can't see, but you look phenomenal.
Thanks.
He just did like a weird goblin face.
I did. That's my face. What are you on about? Didn't do anything.
Nah, bless you. Well, it's nice to be back, and moving on. If you could put your clothes back on now, Phil, that would be great. But no, it was great to be back, and apologies to our listeners for the delay, and we'll try to get another episode out as soon as possible. But as far as we're concerned, we are back. We're back, man. Okay. Wow. Join us on the next Moviemouth podcast, slice of movie and TV related podcast fun. But before then, please follow our Facebook and Instagram accounts at Moviemouth Podcast and hit subscribe or give us a nice 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. Phil and I are off to play some Rocket League now. I'm going to use the new Batmobile. You're going to use the old one.
Yep.
And we're going to get ourselves a couple of wins under the old belt. What do you think?
I reckon so.
Under the old bat belt.
No problem.
No problem. What a save. Phil, there's just one last thing to say, isn't there? Go on.
Okay.
You can say it.
I'm Batman. We did it by accident.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Tune in tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.